So, David, I'm not sure where you want to start. I was hoping not to talk too much about Michael Russo, but as I pointed out at the beginning of the show, the resignation comes this morning. So give me your reaction. Surprised, not surprised? Do you see this coming?
I think when you look at the entire board, I'm not surprised. And the way it's done, he's not fired for cause. They're doing it in the proper corporate way, retiring during the third quarter, so in the fall. And but I think when you look at all the components, I mean, let's remember Antoine Forêt coming home on Thursday, the employees of Air Canada lining the street on a rainy day in Montreal. That sent shivers, not just here in Montreal, everybody who saw it, but throughout the workforce at Air Canada and throughout the country. And this is bigger than just a speech at a Chamber of Commerce, like it was 5 years ago. And yes, there was the usual theater from the Sovereignists and Nationalists, and yes, a unanimous motion, a quasi-unanimous motion at the National Assembly, which is nothing to sneeze at. But when the Prime Minister of Canada, a former central banker, says, I'm very, very disappointed at this is what he said last week, it's like you and me screaming, and so, and remember, Air Canada, if you're on the board, and you're in constant contact with the higher echelons of the federal government. Remember, Air Canada is a business partner with the federal government in the high-speed train. And this is billions and billions of billions of dollars in public money investment. This is one of the biggest infrastructure projects in Canada right now and in Canadian history. And so this is, when you have that, plus the fact that Air Canada is, going through the biggest oil shock in history. Economists are saying that right now what we're going through with oil is the biggest oil shock in history. And Canada is basically in the throes of a major economic slowdown, regardless of what has been going on in the Middle East. So it's not like everybody's rushing to buy very expensive travel tickets for this summer. And so you want a captain at the helm that has the trust of the workforce, that has the trust of your most important partner, which is the federal government. And also, if you're the feds, you don't want this on your board, going into, there's a by-election in Terrebonne, there's a provincial election in 5 months, and right now, every poll will tell you that Quebecers don't see identity and language as a priority. It's below 10% in terms of priorities for Quebecers, but you don't want to do anything to change that. And so could you imagine, Michael Russo just going along and as business as usual?
Yeah.
So I think there were a lot of reasons. And one thing we don't know is that what was his relationship with the board? Ultimately, maybe he was already weakened for some reason we don't know. But ultimately, I think, when you look at the wealth of information we have now, I think it's hard to be surprised by this.
I will point out, and we'll move on, but this morning the story appeared in the New York Times, the resignation story, and it garnered over 700 comments before they shut down the comment section. And I thought to myself, you know what? If the president of Delta or United or whatever would have stepped down, this would have been a paragraph, and it would have been nothing more than that.
Right.
I don't understand, or maybe I'm missing something here, the international significance that this story actually took on based on what happened a week or so ago.
Well, again, I think here, obviously, most of the story was about a language issue. But let's all remember, and I started off with this, and I said it last week when I was on with Mitsumi, it's about a very, very profound tragedy and a plane crash, and 2 people died. Let's name them again. It's Antoine Forêt and Mackenzie Gunther. And so I think that struck a deeper chord at the base and showed a total lack of emotional intelligence from Michael Russo and or his communications team, and that goes beyond just an Air Canada CEO. I think for a $5.5 billion company and a man who makes $12 million a year, you'd expect more. And I think it's going to be a case study in a lot of business schools moving forward.
That's a good point. So let's talk a little bit about something. I've not talked about this all day. I've been watching memes and videos that have been put up through the weekend at the NDP convention.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Look, you have a new leader, Avi Lewis, who, I mean, he has a family history here. But some of the things that come out of this convention make a lot of people sit back and go, what? So has the NDP lost its way here, David? And will this make any difference at all?
Look, when you have things like, okay, we're going to have government-run grocery stores, and we're going to nationalize the internet, nationalize cell phones, nationalize steel and aluminum, and you could go down the list, and you have one of the candidates getting a rousing ovation during speeches. His name is Rob Ashton. He got about 6% of the vote, saying, we're going to eat the damn rich, and that's a direct quote, Aaron. One of the biggest debates during the weekend was the use of the gender equity card at the microphone, and you could go on and on and on. You're seeing that the reflex, and we're seeing it with Quebec Solidaire. Our friend Tom Mulcair was part of that movement with Jack Layton to bring the NDP more towards the center, more towards a pragmatic, ready-to-govern party. And after the horrible results of the last federal election, the reflex, and it's the same thing with Quebec Solidaire and Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois, by the way. Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois tried to take Quebec Solidaire more to the center, more to a place where more Quebecers could look at Quebec Solidaire as an option for government. Now, for both, and the left seems to say, no, you know what? We have to go much further. And so it's disconnecting with its core base, which are union workers, mainly, or working, middle-class workers. And what's interesting is that we're seeing this across Canada, but we're also seeing it in the U.S. and elsewhere in the world. These workers are going towards the right, are actually voting conservative. They're not voting liberal. Last election in Ontario, NDP seats didn't go liberal. They went conservative. And so what you're seeing with Avi Lewis, and on top of that, he has a very divided party. I mean, minutes after he was declared the winner, the leader of the Alberta NDP, Naheed Nenshi, former mayor of Calgary, saying, he's not my leader. He texted. He put it out there. And same thing for the Saskatchewan NDP. Right. And we know that in Quebec, there is no NDP to speak of. The only member is about to jump ship to run provincially for Quebec Solidaire. So what you're seeing is that it's more about activists and being right than trying to build a coalition to go towards power.
My question is almost, does this risk the NDP becoming a fringe party almost?
Well, it already is. I mean, let's be clear here. You have basically 6 seats. A leader that is, not known and has a very radical agenda and thinks that Canada is the same thing as New York City because he's trying to mimic Zohran Mamdani. And so I think you're right in saying that and suggesting that, but I think it is. Just like Quebec Solidaire right now here in Quebec is a fringe party.
By the way, I should mention, I heard Tom Mulcair mention this, if I got this right. So here's the guy who's now elected the new leader of the NDP who chooses not to run in an upcoming by-election?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What? I mean, why would you want to be the head of the party and then not have a seat?
I think because I think the answer is clear there. I think he knows that he may not be able to win. And I think what he wants to do is stay on the sidelines as long as possible, because let's face it here, we're not heading towards an election anytime soon. I mean, on April 13th, barring some incredible development, 99.9% assurance that the Liberals, the federal Liberals, after the by-elections on April 13th, will have a majority government.
Yeah.
So that means we have 3 years now. So if you're Avi Lewis on that point, you say, okay, I'm going to take my time and just travel the country and try to rebuild or build from scratch.
I'm just wondering, too, so you mentioned the Premier of Saskatchewan, or the NDP head in Saskatchewan and in Alberta.
Yeah.
What was Wab Kinew doing there?
Oh, Wab Kinew, which is fascinating. Well, he's one of the two NDP premiers, BC and Manitoba.
But he's okay with this?
He is. I mean, not only
That's
what
weird.
was fascinating, I don't know if you saw, but Wab Kinew gave an interview right after Avi Lubis was declared the winner. And he said, you know what? All these other candidates should be part of his team. So this guy, Rob Ashton, which is, basically, talking about eating the damn rich. And this is basically a move towards socialism. Some people are even calling it, there are elements of communism in this program. Wab Kinew is there because, what can I say? He's buying into this Avi Lewis religion shift.
Because it's funny, I would have thought he's the one guy, right? He's pretty good in terms of recognition now that he could be the next federal leader of the NDP, right?
Well, I don't think it's very attractive at all to become the next leader of the NDP.
There is that, yeah. Okay.
I mean, right now, the quite honestly, yes, because again, Jack Layton and Tom Mulcair, made it very, very attractive to be leader of the NDP. But after Jagmeet Singh's reign and where the NDP is and where the left is, I mean, basically what you're proposing is some sort of drastic transformation of the state, raising taxes, nationalizing industries. I mean, this is the 1970s discourse that is completely disconnected with the priorities of Canadians.
And eating the rich. David, before I let you go, I asked the question today. We went to see Project Hail Mary, and we're talking about aliens. And do you believe aliens are real?
I do.
Have you ever seen one?
Oh, several.
David, I'm serious.
Look, I'm not at liberty to say.
But in all seriousness, you believe aliens? You believe aliens could be real?
Of course, it's ridiculous to think that in the vastness of the universe, the more we learn about how diverse the universe is and how enormous it is, that we're the only ones. I cannot believe that. As a proud original Trekkie, there's no way I could believe anything else that we are not alone.
Fair enough.
And live long and prosper, my friend.
Thank you. And he's doing the hand thing now, too.
Yeah.
David Heurtel. Thank you, David.
I'm Luke Wilson. Join me each week for Film Never Lies. Since retiring from the NFL, I've had a lot on my mind, and now I've got my own show. So if you're tired of lazy takes, if you want honest conversations, join us each week. Film Never Lies, available on all TSN platforms and the iHeartRadio app.